Hello, happy Halloween. Welcome to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, concluding Chucktober with Chucky Season 3, Episode 8, Final Destination. And yeah, the title of something that Devon Sawa was in. Directed by Jeff Renfro and written by Alex Delisle, Nick Ziegler, and Don Mancini. Aired May 1st, 2024. So, wow, pretty much 6 months since this aired. And there were a couple things I'd forgotten since that first watch. For example, when I talked about the previous episode before this one, I was under the impression that the whole trio would try going into the spirit realm. But no, it's just Jake who does this flatliners thing, having to be dead for like 5 minutes in order to infiltrate the spirit realm. And yeah, I remembered what happened with him toward the end, but yeah, it was nice refreshing myself on what happens in this finale, which for the time being is the final episode. I don't know if they've found another network or streaming service to fully support this, but I did see a tweet where Jennifer Tilly, is a picture of her with Don Mancini, and she said, "Don explains it all to me." So there's speculation about whether maybe there's positive news, but they just can't say anything publicly yet. But I guess we'll have to see. I mean, Chucky is such an iconic character that he has to come back in some fashion, even if it's in the form of movies again, whether they be straight to video or theatrical. And I'm sure, Dawn has always cared about continuity, so I'm sure that there would be something that acknowledges the TV show in some form or fashion if it continues. So, yeah, Jake tries going into the spirit realm, and we are told that there are not just spirits of people killed by Chucky, but that there are other spirits, and that the White House has become a magnet for all these other spirits. And I feel like that's something that I'm not so sure was fully explored here, because Jake does go into the spirit realm, and you do see a lot of different spirits, but it's hard for me to make out who all of these people are. But he does come face to face with the ghost of his father. So Devon Sawa was able to play three characters in this season. And I get the sense that his father's hair and facial hair was made to look like Abraham Lincoln. There's a moment where older Charles Lee Ray, Chucky, walks by and he looks like George Washington. So, yeah, even the Chucky title card for this one was made up of these rocks that I guess are supposed to evoke Mount Rushmore, and they show like president faces, but they look like it's their hair, but their face is like Chucky. And there are also searchlights, like lighthouses or whatever, and seagull sounds. So maybe it's supposed to evoke that type of prison, or like Alcatraz or something. I don't know, because there is a prison break from Tiffany's and her part of the story. I guess I should just mention like what happens with her, and then come back to what happens with Jake and whatnot. So Tiffany is about to be injected, but one of the prison guards that she, I guess, has influenced. I was very confused about all of this, like whether she was able to use voodoo dolls or something to make the guards do her bidding, but one of them runs in and shoots the people around, even the priest who the book couldn't block the bullet when he tried. And so Nika is trying to make her way out to where Tiffany is going, rolling her chair. One of the other guards presses these buttons that allows the prisoners to come out of their cells, and it's basically a madhouse. You know, everyone's just wreaking havoc. There's fire, and I get the feeling that lots of people, even some of the prisoners, are going to die as a result of this. But they're definitely overpowering some of the officers and guards that are here and killing some. So Tiffany, uh, we see her escape attempt throughout this episode. You know, a couple different points, and Nika tries to get her, but ends up falling out of her chair and tries crawling at one point, which was very frustrating that the character is put in this position. I mean, we've seen her go through hell, and like her arc feels very little by little we get something with her. But yeah, Tiffany ends up escaping in a getaway car, you know, the fancy classic or vintage or whatever nice looking car. The guard who tried helping her ends up dying. So yeah, I guess all these guards were under her power or something. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this, but that might be because I'm kind of confused about how she was able to accomplish all of this, like have so much of this power. But yeah, she's driving and, you know, gets away from the prison. But yeah, back in the spirit realm, Jake does see his father, and his father, you know, he has a bat like he used to destroy Jake's sculpture in the series premiere, and he talks about how ashamed Jake made him feel, and Jake says, "You made me ashamed of myself," and, you know, Jake really does stand his ground, and you know, he is happy with how he is. It seems like he doesn't have anything to prove to his father. And there is tension here. Like, you do expect his father to hit him, especially when Chucky gives him some alcohol to, you know, fuel his rage. But then Jake does the unexpected and tells his father, "I forgive you." And then they have a hug. And I've had mixed feelings about some of the forgiveness stuff in this show. You know, in season 2, the whole forgiving Chucky thing, I thought that was kind of didn't make sense. But, you know, with his father, I think it's more plausible, even if it's might not be completely satisfying to people. But it does feel like by the end of this interaction, his father has learned and become a better person, and he tells Jake to be careful. Chucky is more powerful here and wishes him luck. So yeah, I guess there is a bit of closure there. I was kind of surprised that they didn't try bringing Junior back in this spirit realm here, but maybe they don't want to throw out that idea that Junior is stuck here. Maybe they want to convey that Junior has some sort of peace. But I'm willing to bet that if Lexi had also gone in the spirit realm, she would have come face to face with Junior, and that could have been a whole thing. But Jake continues exploring the spirit realm, and here he finds multiple Chuckies. Like we see the kid one and the teenage one and the 80s one played by Fiona Dourif, and of course the oldest one played by Brad Dourif. But we also see multiple Chucky dolls, like the buff Chucky and the Colonel, you know, who is eating some popcorn, and at first I thought maybe he was eating candy corn or popcorn kernels. I think popcorn kernels would have been a funny little visual gag, you know, giving me a kernel. But no, it's just regular popcorn, and they're all watching this screen. It's like a movie theater where they're watching clips from definitely the first Child's Play movie and clips from the series, like the series premiere and some of the deaths that happen in the show. I was a bit confused about this because Good Chucky is also here as well, but he runs away because he can't handle watching the violence, seemingly. I was a little confused about how does the multiple Chuckies idea here work? Because we know that Chucky split his soul and put it into multiple dolls, so it makes sense for the multiple dolls to be here, but what about the kid, teenage, and 30-ish-year-old Chucky? Like, why are they considered split souls? Like, that kind of doesn't make sense. They be part of the same Chucky soul, or as Chucky Prime, as they're calling the Brad Dourif one here, wouldn't they? Yeah, I feel like maybe that was something that wasn't really thought out, but I do like having these multiple versions from throughout Chucky's life as a human as part of this episode. So I guess I'm willing to overlook it, but I really want to know the logic behind it, if there is any. Fiona Dourif is also, it's noticeable that it's her voice when she's talking as the 30-year-old Chucky, and she and the older one have this funny argument where the older one is telling the younger one to be more patient, and like it's all about taking your time and whatever. And I feel like that's might be something that he learned while trying to impress Damballa, and really in the previous episode when he was begging Damballa and saying, "Are you not entertained by all my kills?" It felt like the show talking to the network executives who get to decide whether to renew the show or not. Hashtag renew Chucky, hashtag review Chucky, hashtag save Chucky. But yeah, they have a little argument, and it's very obvious that it's Fiona Dourif's voice, which made me wonder, was it actually Fiona's voice when she voiced this, the 1980s Charles Lee Ray in season 1? Because it sounded a lot like Brad, but thinking back to that line where he's like, "You want to smoke?" That sounds like it could have just been Fiona. So I kind of wonder if maybe I was fooled in season 1, but here it's more obvious, that they didn't ADR Brad's voice over hers, and maybe it's something that they wanted, that they would like the two voices like going against each other instead of having ADR and that being distracting. Like, I don't know. So it was a little distracting for me just noticing that it was for sure her voice doing a Chucky impression. But Jake does eventually go to where good Chucky is, and he's like in a hospital bed. And good Chucky says that he can never forgive himself for killing Nadine, and that he still hears her screams. So I do like that Nadine is relevant again. But Jake is told where Caroline is, at Wendell Wilkins' home. And Wendell Wilkins is the creator of the Good Guy doll, as we'll learn later, but yeah, we'll circle back to that. And then Jake tells good Chucky that he could make a noble sacrifice by destroying his own soul, which would destroy the souls of these other Chuckies that I guess are all part of him. So Jake hands good Chucky a knife, and he seems like he's gonna end himself, and the bed is surrounded by the different human Chuckies, and good Chucky counts up to 20, and it turns out it's just a distraction, and he's not really going to make a noble sacrifice, because Jake asks, "Where's the older one?" He notices that the older one has disappeared, and they reveal that it was just a distraction so that Chucky could possess Jake's body. So yeah, it was all a ruse. And so Jake's ghost walks through the White House and sees Devin giving mouth to what in reality is Jake's face of his dead body, but from his point of view it looks like he's giving mouth to a Chucky doll. And yeah, it was really surprising. But yeah, Jake, seemingly wakes up. Of course, it's Chucky having possessed Jake. And the way he talks, it's very obvious that it's not Jake, but it's maybe not as obvious to them. And then there's this whole thing that goes on where the White House is on fire. I guess this is part of Price's contingency plan. And Grant ends up in a fight with Price and ends up locking him in a room where he burns alive. And so everyone's trying to escape the White House, and Timmy and Jake get separated. They end up in an elevator, and that's where Jake Chucky ends up killing Timmy, and even mentioning how ripped Jake is. And I mean, I guess we saw in the season premiere that Jake has been going to the gym seemingly, so that became relevant again. That, how he looks stronger. But yeah, Chucky has his fun, and apparently, I guess there's bad news for Timmy when he reaches the spirit realm, as Chucky says he has friends who want to see him and tell them that Chucky sent you. And Grant also gets separated from Lexi and Devin at some point. Maybe that's when he had the confrontation with Price. But yeah, they all make it out, but Grant is not with the trio at that point, which was kind of confusing, like why he didn't go with them, or if he knew where they were outside of the White House. But I do like that he survived. I honestly could remember if he did, because I knew he was not in the final scene from what I remembered. So I do like that he survived. I kind of wonder if he would have still been a recurring character for season 4. But yeah, Jake Chucky is trying to act like he's himself and that he's sad about Timmy's death. And he tells Devin and Lexi that Chucky gave him an address. And so the three of them go to Wendell Wilkins' house. Also, Wendell is played by John Waters, who played that paparazzi guy in Seed of Chucky. So that's a bit of a return there. And I don't think Don Mancini actually directed an episode of this season, did he? No. Yeah, that's kind of surprising. And we learn his whole story, how he was the creator of the Good Guy doll, as well as some other doll lines, but the Good Guy doll is the most popular. He had an 8-year-old son who got stabbed at the mall in 1983. I kind of wondered if maybe there would be a reveal that Chucky was the one who was responsible for Wendell's son's death. Maybe that would have been a twist in season 4 and led to some inner turmoil within Wendell or something, because he seems like he's lost his mind and just is really impressed by the idea of Chucky being one of his good guy dolls come to life or whatever. And Jake Chucky does something that I don't think Jake himself would have done. He says, "I'm so sorry," and tries to give Wendell a hug, but he pushes Jake Chucky away and says, because of what happened to my child, I don't like being hugged by children. And Lexi's like, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, it's such a weird detail, and it's for the comedy, obviously, but yeah, weird justifications for character traits, I guess. And he says that he built the Good Guy doll prototype in 1987 and shows them the doll in a vault. And Caroline comes out, reveals that she's there, and recognizes Chucky, even though he's in Jake's, he's possessed Jake. And yeah, I'm glad that they didn't drag out the Chucky possessing Jake thing, because they could have gotten really awkward with Devin, trying to continue with the ruse. So I'm glad it didn't last too long. Caroline has become adept at voodoo rituals by this point, and she does not want to go back with Lexi as much as Lexi pleads her. Caroline is like, this is who I am. And, earlier in the spirit realm, Chucky and Jake had this back and forth where uh, Chucky says, "You get to be who you are now. You can stand up for yourself for that, and I get to be who I am." And so Chucky's trying to compare being your own killer self to being queer, but it's clear that his reasoning is stupid. Jake thinks that his reasoning is stupid. Um, so Tiff does Tiffany arrive yet? Well, I think first Caroline does the ritual that brings Jake's soul back to his body and Chucky's soul into the good guy doll prototype. And yeah, I think Tiffany arrives after this, and Chucky. Well, at some point in all this, Wendell shows the kids like something, and then they kind of disappear. And Tiffany and Chucky have an interaction, and Chucky's like, "Have you heard from Gigi?" And Tiffany's like, "Not for a couple months." And Chucky's like, "I miss them." And so it's weird but kind of sweet that he misses his child. But Tiffany says, "I wish we could be a family again." And Chucky basically proposes to her and shows her that they also have a Belle doll in this place. And yeah, so because Jennifer Tilly is going to be hunted and is a fugitive, Tiffany agrees to this proposal that she start her life again as a doll, and this is her first time being a doll in 19 years. She split her soul into a doll or two since then, but yeah, it's going back to that whole idea. And at some point, Chucky also says he's 65 years old, and I wasn't sure if he was rounding or if that's supposed to be his actual age. Because earlier in the season, he said he started killing when he was 7, but if I remember correctly, in season 1, I think that maybe it was the newspapers that said it was his 8th birthday party, and then after that, the murder of his parents happened. But so is that just another typo? I don't know. But anyway, so Chucky, Tiffany, and Caroline leave this place in their getaway car, but outside of the house, there's another car, and Nika is in it. And I think Nika, it looked like she looked on her phone and maybe had like some sort of tracking device, so I was wondering if she had put something on the getaway car or whatever, but because was this Tiffany's car? Maybe it was like Tiffany's car in season 2 or something. Like I said, there are some confusing things that kind of get brushed over, but it does feel like Nika is tracking them, and so I think because she has a way of tracking down the car, she's able to go into the house for a little bit of time and see what's up there. And so she, goes inside, and she sees 3 dolls, which have faces that look very much like Devin, Jake, and Lexi's faces, and they're trapped in this, like, behind this glass thing, and telling Nika to watch out behind her. And it was a little frustrating that she didn't heed their warning right away, but Wendell walks up behind her, and then and earlier Wendell also had a gun, which was why he couldn't be stopped right away by the trio, and they had to go along with certain things. The voodoo ritual, and I guess being put in these dolls. So yeah, then we cut to the outside of the house and hear Nika screaming. And on the road, we see Caroline driving the car, and in the backseat, Chucky and Tiffany are making out. And Caroline's like, "I'm way too young for this shit." And I think on the first watch, I thought that, their destination is kind of unknown, but that they see Caroline as their new child now. But after this rewatch, I think maybe Chucky and Tiffany and Caroline are going off to look for Gigi. So I suspect that maybe the plan for season 4 was to bring the dolls to England to search for their child, and then maybe the trio would have to track them there. I gotta wonder for season 4, how long would they be these dolls? Like, would it be a whole season or half a season? Because you kind of don't need those actors, for Devin, Jake, and Lexi to be on set for this sort of thing. They just have to do voice work. Um, or could it just be for one episode? I gotta wonder, like, would they be able to repossess their bodies? Because their bodies are pretty much dead now, right? But I think if you think back to the whole Flatliners moment when Jake's body is technically dead, but was still able to be repossessed by Chucky and then by him, I think maybe they are still able to repossess the bodies, as long as they're not damaged by gunshot wound or something like Chucky's original body was. So, yeah, maybe they would have gotten back into their original bodies after a little bit of time somehow, with the season premiere, fourth season premiere taking place in Wendell's house. But then what happens to Nika? Does she get put in a doll as well? And is that how she's able to have working arms and legs? I think that's something that people have theorized could happen with her. I just don't, like, even way back to season 1. But I just don't know, like, what's the plan. And like I said, there are things like some head scratchers, some logic leaps in this episode and some other episodes. But this is a strong finale, and it gets you curious, like, what happens next. And so to have the show be canceled, it's like, man, I really hope that we get a continuation and don't have to wait too long, somehow. But yeah, overall strong episode. I still, maybe it's my favorite of the season, but I don't know, I feel like a bit is keeping me from getting the rating up to an 8.5. Basically the back half, like this one included, are all 8.25 and just rounded to the nearest quarter. But yeah, overall, like, how much of that average would be? So, get my calculator here. I just realized I couldn't. I have the mask on, so yeah. I forgot if I still had it on. Let's see. Add those, and then I'll be dividing by 8. Okay, so on average, the season, like, if you round, gets 7.7 from me. So, kind of on the high end of fine, approaching good. Like I said, I like this season more than season 2, but not as much as season 1. So, there are some things that could have been done better. I've already talked at length about some of the stuff. I also feel like this season, some of the episodes have not too much that felt worth talking about, for me anyway, or that wouldn't take up too much time as some of the other stuff in previous seasons. But yeah, it's also really surprising that this show was able to depict the White House getting blown up, on American television. Yeah, like, I know it's fictional, but yeah, I don't know. It also ends with Chucky in the Oval Office saying that he wants to run for 4th term, 4th season, basically, and it shows a montage of the kills. So, just another silly fourth wall break. But yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else I may have missed from this finale. Let's see. I think I talked about pretty much all I want to talk about. Like I said, I really hope this continues and we don't have to wait too long. But yeah, so it's been really fun doing this Chucktober thing, getting in the routine of watching one thing per day and reviewing one thing per day. I do have ideas here and there of what I might want to put on the channel in November, even like pretty soon. So I guess I'll have to see if I'm able to stick to whatever I have in mind, or if it just, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm glad it was fun doing this 31-day challenge and, refreshing myself on the franchise. And yeah, so thanks for tuning into Chucktober here in Steven Shinder Reviews in video form. I feel like I gotta say like some other things that I'm not remembering at the moment, and it's like, oh man, because I'm done talking about the show, I don't know if I'll get the opportunity to bring it up again that much. But yeah, I don't know. It's just all those feelings of, you've said a lot of things and then you wonder, did I say everything I wanted to say? And it's like, I don't know. I guess you just gotta let it go sometimes. But yeah, this franchise, I don't want to let it go. I hope it has a good continuation, not too far into the future in some form. And yeah, so thanks for tuning in to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, and see you all soon.